So it has been a really busy morning in the world of gaming news. I'm sitting here in the morning talking to you and recording this video now before logging on for work, and even as of right now, there's plenty of other stories and big things happening right now. But this story about Nintendo and their E3 Direct is obviously a bit more relevant to what we normally talk about and cover here, so that's why I wanted to focus on this. As far as I could see, this news broke this morning from VentureBeat, where they discussed that Nintendo is apparently planning to cancel their Direct that they were going to be showing for E3 and for June. Obviously, with E3 being canceled earlier this year, a lot of us speculated that Nintendo probably was still going to show their Nintendo Direct that they would have otherwise shown during E3, because they've typically done that ever since they stepped away from the press conference stage. They've still had Nintendo Directs and digital events and all these different names that it's been throughout the years, and they've improved in quality. I mean, at this point, they're kind of a staple of E3, and we all look forward to seeing what Nintendo is going to show. Then with E3 being canceled, it's like, well, they didn't have a press conference anyway. They normally just show us directs. So if there's no E3 show floor and no conference stage, they could still just give us the direct that they were planning to show us. I think that's what a lot of us were still hoping to see. I mean, we were kind of holding on to hope. I've obviously discussed, my own opinions over the past couple of weeks, how I've been open to the idea that Nintendo might not be doing it, but still wanting to believe that it could happen. And apparently, per this report that is yet to be confirmed by Nintendo, by the way, it sounds like, yes, Nintendo will be postponing or canceling their planned E3 Direct. So it sounds like what's happened is that Nintendo has actually been sharing with all their development partners that this is going to be happening. Obviously talking to XYZ company, whose game was maybe going to be featured in their E3 Direct, and Nintendo letting these companies know, hey, we're actually not having a direct presentation to showcase your game along with all of these other games in June like we thought, so be aware. And due to that, I think that's how this information has been starting to make the rounds and how it's been getting out to us. And through this, a lot of people are upset, a lot of people are disappointed, which is understandable. I mean, if this is true, which I completely believe, I am also disappointed. I mean, let's be real. We're all fans. I'm a fan. I love Nintendo. I love the Switch. I love E3 and that whole time. I want to know what all the different companies and all the consoles are going to be giving us over the course of the next year or so. Obviously, I care about this stuff, and with the industry being so slow, and with Nintendo being so silent for so long, at least on their big high-tier releases, of course I wanted to see a Direct in June, and of course I'm very devastated that it's not going to happen. But obviously, we know the reason why. I mean, at this point, we're all starting to sound like broken records, I think, on YouTube, having to constantly talk about gaming news and delays and cancellations and updates to stuff, where we have to constantly bring up that the health situation is impacting all of these decisions being made by all companies. And of course, that includes Nintendo, which I spend most of my time talking about to you guys because they're my favorite company. And so, yeah, this is another situation where something is not going to be happening the way we expect, and it's because of this health situation. Apparently, the real fine detail beyond just the health situation is the fact that, according to this article, Japan is still under a pretty heavy work-from-home order, I think countrywide. And, I'll be honest, I didn't exactly know the status of Japan's current situation in this health crisis, and so learning through this that apparently they have a strict work-from-home order, it certainly makes sense to me. I mean, learning that this is the thing that might be preventing the Direct from going off, it makes sense to me. And so, as I said on Twitter, I'm not mad about this. I can't possibly be mad about this because it just makes too much sense. And obviously, all the nations around the world, including my own here in the USA, we're trying to protect people. All of these things happening is trying to protect people, keep them safe, keep people alive. And every single day of the week, every week of every year, I'm going to tell you, keeping people alive is far more important than any video game release or Nintendo Direct presentation. To me, it's indisputable. That always takes precedence. And I think the work from home thing is interesting because it kind of helps me understand exactly why the Nintendo Direct presentation can't go off. I think beyond just not being able to confirm release dates for games because of the health situation, if you think about it, the Nintendo Direct is still something that has to be put together. It's not like, oh, push a button to make a Nintendo Direct. Anyone can do that from anywhere. I mean, it's clearly not the case. You've always got people who are being filmed. In the past, it's been Reggie, it's been Iwata, it's been Miyamoto. Last year, it was Doug Bowser and Koizumi. Maybe they were going to have them come back. So you've got people coming into a stage that Nintendo has somewhere, and a film crew and an audio crew set up to film and record, and then it goes to editors who are obviously editing that stuff together, and then they're also taking all of the game trailers and the content, and they're adding the graphics and the transitions. And so, you know, long story short, a team of people are usually working together and having to get together to put together a 20, 30, 40-minute Nintendo Direct. It's not literally one person with a button that says create Nintendo Direct. Like I said, like, there's more that goes into a production like that. And you know, we've been far enough out from June, from the E3 time, since this health situation started, for them to have been able to have already created it. Like, obviously, this is probably the time they would normally start going about putting it together, filming things, getting their games lineup ready for the Nintendo Direct. I mean, we're 2 months away from this. I guess we're about maybe 5 or 6 weeks away from it. So they would probably start doing it about now, and obviously they can't because work from home. I do want to come back to this one part though, which I already touched on here. It is still okay to be upset or disappointed. You know I harped on the fact that this makes sense and we shouldn't really be mad about it. We should all be able to understand, hopefully as competent, mature adults, we understand why a decision like this happens, and it's really no one's fault. It's just the unique craziness of the world right now and how everyone is trying to adapt around it. But beyond that, it's also fair to say, yeah, you can be disappointed. Like I said even, I am disappointed. Disappointed and angry are two different things and they're different emotions. Maybe I think that's what people get confused with sometimes. So being disappointed doesn't have to mean the same as being angry. So myself being disappointed and sad isn't the same as me being angry at Nintendo, like, oh my god, Nintendo, how dare you keep this thing from me? What about what I want? What about the video games I want to play while I'm stuck at home? How dare you not think of me and just do it just for me? That's anger, and that's being a baby, okay? So anyone who feels that way, I'm just gonna tell you, you're being a baby. I don't think many people who watch my videos or channels or my channel are babies and would come here with that attitude, but there are those people out there, we see them, and so to those people, you're just being a big old baby. But to anyone who is just, like I said, disappointed or maybe even frustrated to a degree, I get it, and I think that that's okay. It's acceptable to feel those kinds of emotions when something like this happens, provided that you're keeping your, your emotions and your frustrations and your disappointment focused in the wrong direction, and you're not putting it, where it doesn't belong, like towards Nintendo in an angering way, or even towards other fans or whatever, then that's fine, man. I mean, we can want a Nintendo Direct to happen in June, but also understand why it's not happening. And, these are things that can happen at the same time. It's not just a one or the other thing. It's not a black and white situation. I know, like I said, I have to keep bringing this up on all of these video topics in 2020. It's constantly about this. We have to keep coming back to this. And it sucks. I don't want to keep talking about this, and I don't want this to keep making things the way they are in gaming right now. But at the end of the day, that is just what it is. I do still think it's important, though, to remind everybody, it is okay to feel some level of disappointment. That's not a wrong emotion, and no one is wrong for feeling that way. It's just about not being an asshole and not placing the blame or the anger at the wrong people. And so at this point, where do we go from here? I think that's obviously the next question we wonder. What else can we expect? What else might Nintendo do? And I don't know. It's really hard to predict, man. This is just the situation we have to deal with. I would have to think that Nintendo is still going to find a way to get some information out to us. I mean, if they're still planning on giving us some significant releases in 2020, they're going to have to give us that message. They have to. Obviously I talked about maybe Nintendo's throwing in the towel in 2020, and so they're not going to have any other big games in the rest of the year. And if that happens, if that theory of mine was true, then we're not going to hear from them. But there's just as much of a chance that that isn't the case, and they might still have some big games planned for the rest of the year. Some of them could even be the Mario remasters that we've all talked about several times. And so whatever they might have for the rest of the year, a surprise Pikmin 4, new Smash DLC, Mario remasters, whatever else they're going to do, who knows? Maybe Breath of the Wild 2, like let's pretend that's going to be it. Bayonetta 3, of course, is a big one. No More Heroes 3, which I just talked about, a release date and gameplay. Any of that stuff they might want to show us that could be 2020, that is stuff that, yes, they will have to talk about. And so maybe they do a direct later near the end of the summer, which actually the VentureBeat article even references that they might do it at the end of the summer. That could happen. Maybe they parse the info out in just separate videos on YouTube. Here's an update and a video and gameplay just on No More Heroes 3, just on Breath of the Wild, just on Bayonetta 3. Maybe they have to do it that way. And obviously that stuff is better than nothing, but it also just depends on what they even want to do in 2020 anyway. And at this point, man, I just don't know what we should expect until Nintendo decides to surprise us with new information. So at the end of the day, it is what it is, you know? I've mentioned it several times in this video. It can't be avoided. The health situation changes everything, and this is just the latest example. The last thing here is we just have to wait for Nintendo to confirm this, which I assume they will soon. If this information is accurate and real, which it feels real to me, then obviously Nintendo is going to know that information is out there. And as bad as Nintendo is at messaging, I do firmly believe at some point they will address us about what's going on. Hey, we're not doing an E3 show. We're not doing anything in June like we planned. We're sorry, and look forward to something later. You know, hopefully they do that. Or maybe we get the great scenario where they come out and say, hey, we are doing something in June. Maybe this information's not true and it's wrong. And Nintendo can clarify and let us know to expect something great in June. I mean, how great would that be, right? We'd all love it. So we just have to wait and see what Nintendo does and what moves they're going to make. You know, they're being really slow, really quiet. They're dragging their feet. They're keeping stuff close to their chest. 2020 is the game changer. And so this is just where we are for now. And it'll be interesting to see what happens, man. So these are my thoughts and opinions. Please discuss my thoughts and opinions and what you think. And of course, share your own thoughts and opinions. I could see this being another video that might be controversial to some people. Maybe folks who just want to be downright angry at Nintendo. And I mean, hey, you got to do what you got to do, I guess. But you know how I feel about that, if that's your attitude. So with that being said, this video is a wrap. Thanks, of course, as always, for tuning in, guys. This is Rob over Loop 2 Review, and I'll catch you next time on another video.